28 months down, yeah, the industry's been bruised, but we're not here to fold, we're here to refuse. While others pause, we built the plays, now we're leading the charge in a brand new phase. You feel that tension, that's the pressure to grow. Hiring's messy, turnovers high and budgets low, but we don't panic, we adapt. We sharpen the edge and reload the map. This is the staffing playbook, strategy on tap. Steven brings the grit, G Money brings the slap. Forget the fluff, forget the spin. We give you plays that actually win. From the break room floor to the boardroom seat, we've walked the walk, now we bring the heat. CDLs, forklifts, line leads, and execs. We place the best and fix the wrecks. Insight, hustle, leadership bold. No safe takes, just the truth told cold. Wanna scale your team, wanna close that gap. We got the data, the story, and the roadmap. So turn it up, lock it in. This is more than a podcast, it's a win. This is the staffing playbook. Let's get to work, it starts right now.
Welcome back to the Staffing Playbook Podcast, part 3 of our Cracking the MSP Code. I'm your host, Steve Farrell, and I'm joined by no other.
G Money with the slap, aka Genevieve Bourgeois. How are you?
Fantastic. I've been looking forward to this final episode of our 3-part series, and we want to welcome back Josh Moskoviz and Mandy Hileman. I messed up your names again.
So welcome
good
back,
on Josh
episode 2. So
yeah,
good.
I just thought maybe you were intentionally butchering his last name. So
I may have been.
How about just call him like J Money, like you do?
Yeah.
Yes, I like it. Well,
like it.
So we just finished 2 episodes, episode 1 and 2. We pulled back the curtain on the client's perspective and exposed the hidden cost of carrying C players in episode 2 instead of your A players. Today, we close the trilogy with the playbook agency's need to stay as a partner, tier 1 vendor, be profitable in a market where every margin point is under a microscope. We're going to be talking about scorecards that actually drive tiering, how to win 48-hour compliance guarantees, the right way to ask for rate flexibility without sounding like you're padding your bill rate. And we are not going to dodge the risk conversation. And so today we're going to be talking about joint employment, alternative employer endorsements, waiver, subrogation, cancellation clauses, all the fine print that can protect your bottom line or blow it up with a single incident. So that's where these partnerships graduate from vendor to indispensable allies. So Josh and Mandy, they're back. They're going to break it down for us. What are agencies doing differently? How you can lock in value, trust, and margin in your MSP relationships. So Josh and Mandy, I want to give a little bit of a legal backdrop, some of the things that have hit headlines recently as we jump into this discussion. I want to start with the NLRB's expansive 2023 joint employer rule that was vacated. The 2020 standard, which was more direct control, remains, that remains, and it reduces co-employment risks, but it doesn't eliminate it. We also recently saw the FTC, that near blanket non-compete ban. You guys remember that? We were all excited for it. That was vacated in 2024, and then the 2025 appeal was dropped. So the bottom line is the rule is not in effect, and it's still, obviously you still check with your state laws. Then you've got credentialing. It's still a silent margin killer. Plan around 60 to 180 days in many settings, unless your process is world-class. And maybe you guys can give us some tips on that today. Your advantage is to compress, that with a pre-built doc pack and real-time statuses, which Josh hit on a little bit in episode 2. You have the nurse licensure compact keeps expanding. New states keep coming online, and you have tightening resident roles, smart supplier, route recs to an NLC-friendly pipeline. You have insurance and risk transfer. MSP clients expect alternate employer endorsements and waiver subrogation to be properly handled. And so there's a lot going on in the risk and compliance side. And I've got a lot of questions that I want to dive into today. I think this is going to be a really insightful conversation. So Josh, Mandy, are you guys ready?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Ooh,
I
Genevieve,
know
are you
I
ready?
am.
All right. So we've talked a lot about scorecards. I want to ask again here. Some thresholds defined for some of your best suppliers in your programs. Where do you set the cut lines for demotion? Let's hit it with one line answer there, because we talked a little bit about it before. Let's go with you, Mandy.
I think there's a couple different metrics to measure. And I think it's important to have a transparent conversation about that before absolutely like cutting somebody from your program. But I think it's really the one that's important to me is a backup quits in terms, keeping that below 10%.
10% was your number, and I know Josh said between 10 and 15, so we're in alignment there. Josh, anything else you want to add?
I would say, and it's broad, but just overall performance on the panel. Now, if we're talking specifics, I would echo Mandy with on-time starts. Really is a big driver. Kind of like we mentioned last episode, amount offers you confirm. Just your overall performance is really there's multiple factors. It's not one factor over another. It's just your overall viability within a vendor panel and how you perform.
Consistency.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. I was like, was a shorter way to say the babble I just said. Thank you.
Mandy's got your back here.
I was saying, I get it. I made a note.
Yeah.
Active listener.
So
Absolutely.
speaking of consistency, let's talk about cycle time here. If a supplier commits to 48-hour compliance, which is, I think pretty normal, how much does that move their rank, their ability to work with you as a true partner in real life if they're committing to that 48-hour compliance, Josh?
Not sure I follow what you mean by 48-hour compliance here.
So I would say if you've got, what's the typical commitment window for getting all of the endorsements verified, employment, everything put together in a nice, packet with a bow on it. If they're committing to do that in 48 hours, are they going to be moving up the rank? Does that happen? Is that reality?
That's not reality for somebody getting on assignment. If that's where we're going with it, that's way too fast.
So we need a bigger window there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a 48-hour compliance in my world is crisis staffing. I think you're looking at more of a 2 to 3 week window to get everything, background checks, drug screens, titers, vaccinations, et cetera, et cetera.
Mandy, do you agree? Is that what you're seeing too? About 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah, I would say definitely 2 weeks. I'm glad Josh said something about the fact that I'm not seeing anybody offering up 48-hour compliance, and it's usually background checks and drug screens. Those seem to be taking longer now than ever. And so it depends on if, they've worked for the travel company before. We might be able to work with the facility to allow them to start while some of those other items are pending. But I would agree with what Josh was saying.
So then if a supplier is committing to 48-hour compliance, that's a huge red flag.
Likely.
I mean, yeah, circumstantially, that sounds like somebody that either lost their assignment last minute or
Could be, yeah.
some other mitigating factor that as they were reporting to work, an issue arose that they were no longer able to do that. But you still run into no program has the same compliance and requirements. So inevitably there's an adjustment somewhere along the way. Again, unless you're getting into a crisis staffing situation, that's a whole bunch of semantics involving pending documentation, et cetera, and not
Mhm.
just the norm, air quote.
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, like, when it comes to some of this, when it comes to compliance, especially within your industry, are there, I guess, like rules, regulations that are more so tied state by state, region by region, or is it closer to like firm to firm, like hospital to hospital, client to client? Like, can you please like paint a better or more clear picture? So, because I don't work in your industry, I
Yeah,
work
we're
in
infants in
staffing.
healthcare
So
staffing.
this is where I'm like, please
Yeah.
indulge me. Please
I think
inform me.
it's client to client or customer to customer.
Okay.
Most customers would like a drug screen within the last 30 to 60 days. And so that means that each time that traveler is going on a new assignment, they're being drug tested again.
Yeah.
And even if the traveler gets in there and takes the drug screen right away, we're seeing anywhere from 48 to 72 hours for those results to come back. And so really it's driven by the customer's requirements. You mentioned state requirements. A lot of states have a Department of Health and Human Services background check, just to make sure they're not on a registry for elder abuse or child abuse. And those are like Nebraska. I live in Nebraska. We have one through the Department of Health and Human Services. It was taking 2 to 3 days. Now it's taking 7 to 14 days. And a lot of facilities will not let the traveler start with that pending because it's a vulnerable population that they might be working with.
Oh, okay. No, thank you. But so 48 hours is just unrealistic. So for if an agency and they are working with multiple clients, if they're trying to promise something like that, maybe there could be a little bit of a cocktail going on.
Like Josh mentioned, there might have been cancellation. Maybe somebody had
Redeployment.
staff
but
member.
if someone's saying that,
You're
like, this is
redeploying
our
them.
industry, this is our standard,
Yeah,
that's
no.
unrealistic.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, thank you. I really love it and I appreciate the clarity there.
Yeah.
Steve?
So, back to compliance and risk, Josh, we were talking offline a little bit about, or maybe it was on the last episode, I can't remember, but it was, some of these smaller agencies really are moving faster right now when it comes to gaining more wallet share, gaining more market share, because they're just a little bit more nimble. They're not as rigid as some of these larger agencies. And so leaning into, looking at those small, mid-sized firms, they're working with an MSP, they always have a risk department and a legal team to be looking at some of the clauses in the MSAs. And I'm curious, with both of your experience, Mandy and Josh, where do you see some of these clauses often bite agencies later that they didn't recognize that was in the agreement, whether it's overtime calculations, cancellation fees, indemnity scope, liquidated damages. What does that look like? What have you guys seen out there?
Indemnity scope is a big one, for sure. I worked for a company that was their zero in focus on any agreement. I learned a lot from it as a result. Mutual indemnity is always the scenario you want. MSPs are pushing for that as well because it's truthfully favorable to everybody, the client, the MSP, and the agency. It's just a better scenario. It doesn't mean that that's always going to happen. But, and for simplistic sake, it's essentially handle your own business unless something triggers crossing over.
Okay.
All right.
Mandy?
I think you mentioned cancellation clauses or fees or penalties. And I know that that's something that I know that the staffing agencies don't like that. And I'm always, I like to educate clients that yes, while charging that, does feel good because you're recouping some of that money maybe that you were paying towards overtime or, had to pay to offset that cancellation. A lot of the times the agency is not able to charge the traveler for that, just because state to state different laws. And so the agency actually ends up eating that cost. And so really it doesn't deter behavior or change behavior. It just penalizes the staffing company. And so I'm always a big proponent of like, instead of penalizing, let's reward for the good behavior. So maybe instead of doing a penalty, let's give a completion bonus. If somebody, you know, completes a 13-week assignment with only one absence, let's reward them for that. Because I feel like that will actually change behavior as opposed to a cancellation or penalty clause.
So, like, sorry, I have dogs, but like that whole positive reinforcement. It's like, hey, you did this. Here's a bonus, and that's going to help out with retention and making sure that people are like on their assignment, actually working through their assignment. But that also, I know that we mentioned previously, if an assignment was extended, which is probably like that could probably go and help with that as well. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect where I know the staffing companies don't like to see those. And the first question we will get, you know, when somebody wants to join our panel is, you know, what type of cancellation clauses do you have? And I personally really try to like educate the client on those before we implement those, just because it can be a deterrent for staffing agencies to provide candidates to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes
a lot of sense. I mean, because also with the CPA on average to hire a nurse, and like that's cost per application, it's at least $72 to $75 bare minimum.
Yeah.
And that's think about how many people you have to go sift through in order to find the right person. So
yes.
Yeah, no, all right.
All right.
Speaking
of clauses, what is going on right now? What is, you know, why are we seeing in the MSAs this increased need for EPLI insurance, cybersecurity coverage at these crazy amounts? What is going on? What's driving this increase? Who wants to take it first?
I'll tee off. Yeah, I'll tee off on it. So I'll zero in on cyber. All the data breaches that have been going on lately, HIPAA information at risk. I mean, people have to cover all bases, and that is the modern world reality right now. Cybersecurity and the focus on it and the insurance behind it is not going anywhere. And if anything, there will continue to be increased focus on it due to just how sensitive that information is. There have been, and depending on what part of the country you're in right now, there have been certain areas where the limits that an agency is required to hold are very high. And it is it's a reality of cost of doing business in some of the typically bigger programs. That are,
when you say high, are you talking $100,000?
Oh no, we're talking the millions.
Millions.
Probably the larger programs, I would say like 5 million.
Exactly.
Because the thing is, especially you said the word HIPAA right there, HIPAA. If anything gets taken out, think about all of the lawsuits, all the personal information.
Tons of risk.
And so that's a huge risk. And that is, I don't even want to fathom the amount of like money that would actually go and cost.
Well, think about
go
ahead, Josh.
Without having proper coverage. So
just like, you know, there was that, I think it was United Healthcare breach that their system was down for, what is it, weeks or months? And then there was a couple of hospital systems as well. And imagine if your traveler was the one that, you know, shared their password with somebody or somehow was the reason. Like that's the $5 million is not even going to cover of what that loss is going to be.
And that ties to where I was going with it of there's a lot of nervousness about the cost of maintaining coverage like this, and that's nothing comparatively to if something happens. And and when I say you, I mean the health system, the MSP, or the agency partner doesn't have said coverage, it'll seem like a dream what it was to carry that compared to what is going to come your way.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. It's interesting because, you know, especially with AI at the forefront now, you see these AI bots or agents or whatever you want to call them that are self-learning, and they can around the clock be working on a hack to get into your systems 24/7. Doesn't need any breaks, doesn't need a lunch, doesn't need to take a nap. It's just working nonstop trying to crack the code. And that's only going to get even more complex over the next few months, the next couple of years. And so the cybersecurity insurance, it's expensive now, but these companies are going to be doing a lot of payouts, as they have been in the last 5 years has been the most significant. And so we're going to see those premiums just continue to increase. Would you agree, Mandy?
Yeah, I think that we're just starting to see. You mentioned like the bots, and once those insurance companies have to pay out more claims, and those claims are hefty amounts, we'll probably see some of those premiums go up.
Yeah. You agree as well, Josh?
I do.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, but for agency partners, how much are your clients asking when it comes to coverage from an MSP standpoint? And then what do you typically see being asked of the agencies? I would imagine there's going to be some difference there, or is there not?
There's typically
really.
not. Yeah, there's not. So like whatever, we're required as the MSP to provide to the customer or the client, we would also require that of our panel to have that same coverage.
The MSA that we would have in place with the health system is flow down to the agencies.
Yeah. Typically, yeah, you're right. And so so you mentioned 5 million is kind of the typical policy right now, or is it?
I would say that's more common than not as of late at a large system level. So if you're like talking about, I don't know, I'm not sure what the lowest threshold would be, but at least in my experience, a lot of the programs that we support that have like 10 to 12, 14, 15 locations, like they're asking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And are you seeing your agency partners being able to get those plans? Are they affordable? Is it, how much is it eating into their margins? How much are they asking?
Affordable is a loose term.
Yeah,
affordable is a loose term.
Are you?
Insurance is never affordable.
But here's the thing. Also, if those prices are going up, it's going to probably go and lead to a higher markup for you all. Like with an agreement. I'm just trying to think. It's like, okay, because if they're eating more of that cost, right? Because let's just say there was something that happened, there was a spike. Now they have to have, I'm just going to say, a $10 million policy. But they're a preferred vendor or like of yours.
Or you might see like there be a deductible that you have to meet before they'll cover.
Yep.
You might see that, kind of just seeing what follows trend and like weather, like for your home insurance. Now we're seeing that like my own home deductible went up on claims. And so I think you might see that maybe you have to cover as a company more of it out of pocket before your insurance kicks in.
Okay.
Yeah. Back to the original question. Most agencies are able to do it. They're able to cover. I mean, it's to use a simple term, it's a cost of doing business, especially if you want to play in these larger health system, higher volume programs. You can't support a large system and not have the required coverage. That's just not, that calculation doesn't work.
Yeah, because there's too much risk for all parties involved.
Exactly. I mean, listen, everybody would love to live in New York City on $1,000 a month in an apartment on Central Park West, but
it's not realistic unless you win the housing lottery, and you needed to win it back in the early 90s.
Right. I did that New York reference for you for what we were talking about earlier.
I know, right? I see you.
Well, it's funny you just said it's the cost of doing business. I'm already picturing you've said that to many agencies that have asked that question, and they're looking for concessions, and you're like, you know what? That's the cost of doing business. Have you said that before, Josh?
Not often.
But here's the thing: would you view it as a non-negotiable?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Mandy,
I mean,
same?
as the
Yeah.
MSP, if that's negotiated in the Master Services Agreement, MSA for short, if you know, it's there's no getting around that because it puts the health system at risk at that point.
Mhm.
Like even outside of the MSP being at risk, it's the MSP's job to ensure the health system is protected. That's what we're hired in part for. So if we're making a concession to somebody on an insurance limit, I mean, that's got bad karma written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go back to EPLI for a minute. Why demand is up. Obviously I mentioned earlier, a lot more lawsuits. You got the EEOC charges jumped up again. Retaliations leading the pack. This is obviously pushing premiums, I would imagine. Stricter underwriting.
Yeah. I think that you mentioned, was it the NLRB decision for co-employment was vacated, but I think still at the state level. I'm learning through talking with our customers and our MSP program that states still do consider contractors or travelers that are working on site at a location their employee in some cases. And so even though nationwide it's not viewed that way, at a state level, there's laws in place. And so we're seeing some customers push back, and we're saying this contractor, this traveler is not your employee. You don't have to worry about employment claims. There's indemnification, and they're saying, well, we've had this case or we've had that case, and they have examples to back it up. So I'm seeing more conversations about EPLI than I did 15 years ago.
You seen that too, Josh?
Yeah, Mandy nailed that.
Woo, go Mandy.
Ditto. I would have just been like,
Ditto.
Ditto.
Okay.
So how are agencies navigating all this coverage challenge? I mean, it's just seems to be getting a lot more complex out there. What are you seeing the best agencies do to navigate this well? And what are you seeing with some of the agencies that are not navigating it well?
I think you're seeing, for at least what I see, is that you're not always getting your coverages from the same carrier. So your general professional, work comp might be from one carrier, and then they're sending you a separate policy for cyber. So instead of bundling all those coverages together, you're seeing that maybe they have coverages with multiple companies.
Okay.
Which you would think the carrier for the agency would want to work with them to make a better bundle and have more business with them.
But
you would think.
You would think so, but if they're using multiple carriers, does that impact what you all do? Does it add an extra layer of difficulty? No? Okay, cool. Well, that's good to know.
Right, evidence of coverage, but maybe it's more difficult on their end. They have more business relationships and more people to pay and premiums to keep up with. But on our end, I don't see an impact to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, a COI is a COI. It's the expiration dates maybe will differ from an auditing aspect.
Expiration dates seem like the biggest barrier. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, you could almost look at it as like it's no different than like making sure your clinicians on assignment have all their docs up to date and nothing is expired. I mean, it's not.
Okay, so it doesn't impact you. That's good.
Part of the compliance.
Fundamentally, the important part is that the vendor has the coverage required to participate in the program.
Perfect.
Okay.
All
right. Well, let's move a little bit into, we've been talking a lot about compliance. Let's move a little bit into maximizing value. So I want to talk about cancellations and redeployments a little bit, because this is where the rubber meets the road. If you get it wrong, you lose margin. managers lose trust. Relationships can be broken. If you get it right, you protect both the patient care and your standing with your MSP. So I want to see where that line starts with you two. Let's talk about some benchmarks and root causes, some redeployment best practices, maybe even speed to redeploy. We talked a lot about visibility and transparency, but what are some of these strategies with partnering with these agencies on cancellations? Who wants to take it?
I think I'll take this one. I made Josh tee up the last one. So you mentioned redeployments, and I think that's something that we're all very reactive to, someone's not going to extend. Okay, now there's a need. And I think one of the things that staffing companies could do is, if your traveler is not going to extend, have a candidate ready to backfill when you tell us that they're not ready to extend. So kind of provide the solution, not, if you said, hey, my traveler is not going to extend, they've reached their year and, they're not able to stay longer because they've now exhausted their tax benefit, but I've got this other candidate that's aligned perfectly with start date, and, we can get started right away. I don't even know if we'd post the need.
It's good. It's easy to say, hard to do.
Right.
I mean, like building a pipeline and, like actually being proactive about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Providing
mean,
a solution.
And to Mandy's point here, the agency being forward thinking and proactive is what really helps that be a reality. We would love to say that we would be that proactive with every single traveler that's there, but you as the vendor want to protect your volume, especially in this current market. So it speaks to the visibility you have over your book of business, whether it be as a whole or specifically with us as your MSP partner, to be the one to initiate that conversation.
Yeah, like look at like cancellations, for example. A lot of times they're just unavoidable, and you want to like Mandy mentioned, if you have a redeployment ready to go, you're likely going to waive some of those fees for them, right? You're looking for that. You're looking for those good behaviors to reward those. So how do on the client side, how do cancellations play with your hospital partners? What's the story you need to tell them to maintain trust, and how can suppliers arm you with that narrative?
I think it depends what the cancellation cause is. Also, I mean, there's some circumstances that redeployment of a clinician may not be eligible, so to speak. So I think maybe we should narrow it to a specific circumstance, like a low census cancel, maybe? Or is that not the route you're going?
I don't know. Mandy, what do you think?
Family emergency cancellation.
There you go. You never heard that one before.
The most common type of cancellation, the family emergency.
It's
personal.
Yes, personal matter has come up that I can no longer report to assignment. Yes, we've heard that one numerous times.
Well, I have also heard every time you start a new job, you have 4 new grandparents just in case.
Just in case.
Oh.
This is true. Sometimes 8.
No, I've heard that a lot with people actually overusing it.
Right.
And so I think that's something that we hear in our industry all the time.
It's common in light industrial to have an poor associate losing 8 grandparents in their first month at work. I just feel terrible.
Yeah,
it's rough.
So I think where you're going with this, Steve, is as an MSP, it's be transparent with our client partner as to what happened. Here's our plan to backfill. Here's the pipeline that we have available. What can we do to get to work on this and ensure that there's no gap in coverage and your patient safety and patient care isn't compromised?
Right. Back to the agency side, it's no secret agencies are bleeding in their margins as well. Travel stipends, credentialing repeats, overtime to cover gaps. I'm sure you've had some conversations of helping them, maybe minimize that bleeding or stop it altogether. What are some of the things? What are some of the conversations you're having with agencies on tips to reduce some of that bleeding in their margins?
I think that what we're seeing is that, not having to repeat a drug screen or a background check because you ordered the wrong one. And so, we're really working hard with our affiliate panel, our staffing agencies, to when there's an offer accepted, send out immediate communication within 4 hours saying, here's the list of requirements. And here's the things you really need to pay close attention to that might trip you up, because we don't want you to have to retest on your drug screen because you didn't order the 13 panels and you ordered 10 instead. So I think kind of just paying attention to the details on the compliance is often a lost art.
Also, the type of background checks that varies from client to client, statewide, county by county. Are you going 3 years back? Are you going 7 years back? Are you going 10 years back? Like, you need to pay attention to that information. That is not cheap.
No, it's not. How often, I know the answer to this question, how often do they get it wrong on running the right background package?
Right? The first time, probably not often, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And there's also, unfortunately, there's some travelers that have traveled and lived and worked in so many states that the background checks can get pretty costly. If you're a true traveler that has lived a lot of places. Like, I was shocked one day when someone told me it was $3,000 for a background check for somebody who had lived in multiple states.
It's insane.
Yeah. I'm in the wrong business.
Well,
I think that's part of our job as an MSP is to really make sure we work with our clients to have realistic requirements for travelers. So we know that the travelers are treated just like their own staff is. And so they have to have a lot of the same requirements, but is there anything we can do to lessen that burden for the staffing companies to make sure that we're, being a good partner to the staffing companies as well, to make sure we're minimizing their costs as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's as easy as just sharing, some recommended, companies to run your backgrounds through, that are more cost effective, but still gets you the same information.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's the speed of getting it.
There's also the resources that the vendor has deployed to the MSP partner. So, for example, if there's a dedicated team that handle everything Osseter Workforce Solutions or everything triage, they know our programs back and forth. So these mistakes aren't going to necessarily be as frequent. Nobody's perfect, so it's not going to be 100% all the time, but it in a way to relieve margin pressure and relieve controllables that have negative financial outcome. If you have the same team that's familiar with the process and the requirements, that becomes a little more seamless. And another tie into this, and it kind of goes back to the on-time starts thing that we've talked about before. Every time you miss an on-time start date, your budget on housing and travel and all that on that traveler is severely impacted. So these costs that you're trying to relieve the pressure on could also lead to pressure on additional costs if you're not careful.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
If I were
That's
a
a great
staffing
point.
agency, I would be looking for those facilities that have high extension rates, because that's where you're going to make up some of that margin, is extending that traveler, because you're not having to pay that out-of-pocket cost again for compliance. So really knowing your MSP partner really well and the clients that they're managing to know, okay, if I put this traveler here, is there a great likelihood of them extending?
Yeah, we love time on assignment. We want to extend that out as long as possible to again make up for the margins, because that's you're not making up your margin percent, but your overall margin dollars. That really helps. I want to spend just these last few minutes getting into the tech side of things, you know, I want to understand the tech that agencies should be using, and we don't have to name, you know, the actual software or anything like that, unless you have some in mind. You know, tech to avoid. You know, there's obviously on the very front end, you've got AI tools to screen candidates, right? And hopefully you're using a human to then go and make that final decision. We've got, you know, background checks that you guys just mentioned, their ATS systems and CRMs. You know, what, with some of the more successful partners you have out there, what kind of tech are they using that's working, and what's some of the tech that you're seeing that should probably avoid?
I think for sure a staffing company needs to be using some type of technology to import requisitions. I mean, the days of manually adding requisitions to your job board, if you're doing that, like, I think that there's a couple companies out there that have really made it easy for the staffing companies to partner with them, and they have relationships with the MSPs to join their API and scrape those jobs, for lack of a better word. So that's an absolute must that you have to be doing. I don't know what the cost of those services are, but I would think it would benefit if you're not having that service, somebody's having to manually enter those jobs and you're paying for somebody to do that.
Yeah, that's brutal. Yeah, and let's lean into like credential checks and timekeeping and invoicing, like all that tech. You know, Josh, what are you seeing out there that is working well and what's not?
I mean, at the risk of a humble brag on our technology is pretty awesome when it comes to that. So
did I just tee that up for you?
a little bit. Shout out HTG.
Tell us all about it.
So we really strove to have a user intuitive system. To Mandy's point, the integrations, we have our own in-house tech team. So as long as you have API integratable software that you're using as your CRM internally, and you put forth the effort to work with our team, it's going to make things pretty seamless for the job requisition portion of it. If you're using our software correctly, you can see in real time all your compliance on all your staff. You'll know what's coming up for expiration. You'll get the email notifications. So taking outside of the Trio Workforce Solutions, tech is awesome. Any MSP that you're working with, if you're fully engaged and understand the software that you're working with, you should always be on top of any of these, I guess you could say, miscues that could happen. And the MSPs want vendors to succeed. I think sometimes there's a misconception about that unintentionally, but MSPs are only as good as their vendor panel. We want to make things as easy and seamless for you as possible. So if you're going to partner with us and you're willing to put in that time and that dedicated resources, you're going to be able to do this easily.
Absolutely.
Okay, so follow up to that, you know, should agencies be partnering with your VMS first, or are they having better luck just piecing it out, piecemeal?
I'm going to say you should just be going all in with an MSP partner if you believe in the business model that they have. So if you're signing up with Mandy and Triage, I doubt you only want one of their programs. You want to support them all. So what are you bringing to the table, and what resources are you going to dedicate to supporting that and making it a worthwhile partnership for both sides?
Mm-hmm.
Similarly to us, do you have dedicated resources? Do you have goals? Do you have KPIs specific to our programs? Share them with us. We love hearing that. Like, make yourself visible. Make yourself front of mind.
That's great. You want to add to
that,
that, Mandy?
I think that a lot of staffing companies want a report card from the MSP on how they're doing. But I think doing almost a reverse report card and asking to meet with us to share, you know, how we've done as an MSP with them and how we compare to other MSP partners, and, you know, the goals that they have set. You know, we want to grow our business with you by X amount in the next 30 days or quarter. How can we do that together? Like, I would love if a vendor came to us with a reverse, kind of scorecard to score us.
Mm.
I
Do
really
they?
like that observation and that point, because I think that would actually help open up more lines of communication on all ends
Yeah.
and ultimately make it a much better trusted partnership, because everyone's looking for a true partner. But I think, Steve, I know we've talked about this in the past. How do you get on the day one list? If you do something like that as an agency, that will ultimately open up and see the areas of transparency, open up communication, and that will put you on the day one list.
Yeah.
So fantastic feedback. Reverse
The reverse
report card.
Yeah, the reverse scorecard is not done by many.
Mm-mm.
To your question, there are very, very few that do it.
Yeah, definitely.
We also like treats at Christmas time. So that's
Treats at Christmas time.
That's the number one way to get on the must call list is treats at Christmas time.
Oh, how about just like randomly? It doesn't just have to be around the
True.
holidays.
That's a good point. We don't mind that too.
All right. Well, we are already coming up on time. I want to give each of you an opportunity to close this out, to share any advice, feedback, anything for staffing vendors out there right now that are struggling to keep their business, to grow their business, maybe struggling to partner effectively with their MSP. What kind of closing thoughts would you be willing to share? And maybe let's start with Mandy.
My advice is keep it simple. Don't try to overcomplicate things and just go back to the basics of calling up your client contact and asking, what's your biggest job that I could fill for you today? And, just making it more about what you need as opposed to what I have and what I need. That's how, we as an MSP are treating our customer is, how can I help you? How can I lessen your burden? How can I make your life better? What's keeping you up at night? That's what we need from our staffing partners as well. And I think that's going to differentiate yourself. And just something as simple as getting your presentation correct, your profile correct the first time, every time could make a huge difference in your business. So it goes back to keeping it simple.
Keep it simple. Josh?
Play to your strengths. Every agency has an area they excel in over another one. Lean into that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to call an MSP partner and say, we'll be your number one agency within 30 days. We've heard that line a zillion times. If you say, listen, I'm going to confirm 90% of the offers that you get to me and they're all going to start on time, but I'm only going to give you like 5 to 10 a month or a quarter. Okay. What is your strength in that? What's your niche? Especially, tie everything back together. If you're saying we only do imaging, it's not going to be a lot. Okay. You want to give us 5 to 10 imaging? Great.
Yeah.
Let's rock.
We have a candidate every time that need comes along.
Exactly. Labor and delivery is your niche. Mandy will sign you to every program tomorrow.
Absolutely. I will make your business grow exponentially over the next year.
I know what niche I need to carve out now.
Yeah.
There's your foot in the healthcare, Steve. There you go.
Josh,
ultimately, that's more work for me, right? No.
That's right.
No, but like I really like we've talked about this before, but defining your niche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really important.
Yeah. To help grow the business. That's great advice, both of you.
Yeah. I think that goes back to like years ago. I like to say like pre-pandemic, there were certain companies that were good at certain things. So it's like, oh, this company's always got an OR nurse for us, or this company's always got this for us. And I think that after the pandemic, that kind of went away.
Did it?
Or I don't know, necessarily anymore, like who's my go-to for OR, who's my go-to for L&D. It's not as clear as it used to be. So maybe to Josh's point is like, just focus on your strengths. Like, let us know what your strengths are.
I think anyone listening in, rewind that 30 seconds and pay close attention to what Mandy just said. She is telling you exactly what they're looking for in an agency partner. So rewind it, play it back, take notes. It's been It's been such a delight, you two, this 3-part series. Can't thank you enough, bringing your knowledge and experience to our audience. A lot of agency owners that are tuning in have learned quite a bit. I know I have, Genevieve, I'm sure you have as well.
My brain is like, bum. Okay, like, sorry. Like, that's where it's at, because like, over the past few weeks, we have just learned, and the two of you, thank you so much for your time. You've just dropped so much knowledge, and it's like I'm gonna need like a day to, like, even before I rewatch this, so I can like decompress, and because there's so much to impact. Thank you both so much. Your expertise, your transparency, your communication, I love it. Thank you.
So for those interested in partnering with your firms, Josh, how do people find you?
Well, I'm going to word this 2 ways, because by the time this airs, we have a brand changeover. So for now, it's www.ahsa.com. And then going forward, it will be, and this is after mid-October, www.trio workforce solutions, so triowfs.com.
Wonderful. And if you're reaching out to Josh on LinkedIn, make sure you say his name correctly. Moskoviz, is that right?
Yeah, there we go.
And do not put a T in there.
No
Double
T.
check your spelling.
No T.
Mandy, how about you? How do people find you?
Yeah, I'd say, going through our triage website on triagestaff.com, we do have a tab for workforce solutions, or reaching out to me on LinkedIn or see me at a conference. We do have a workforce solutions affiliate manager that helps with the onboarding of our partners. So she's great. Shout out, Victoria.
All right. Well, that
Victoria
closes.
Is great. Shout out.
Is she? All right.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to follow up with ditto. No.
Ditto. All right. That closes out our trilogy, Cracking the MSP Code. So we've seen the mirror, we've chased the A players, and we've built the playbook to protect margin. So I think the lesson here, MSPs don't need vendors. They need partners who deliver quality, consistency, and compliance without excuses. Take one thing that you've heard and make it part of your playbook this quarter. That's how you go from a commodity to a trusted partner. And thanks again for tuning into the Staffing Playbook podcast and listening to these two wonderful leaders here. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching today's episode. This episode is sponsored by Staffing Referrals. We have relied on staffing referrals for years to turn satisfied associates into brand ambassadors, keeping quality talent coming in and lift retention. See what it can do for you at staffingreferrals.com or click on the link in the description. Thanks for watching.